Welcome to Medicine and Healthcare Around the World, the podcast where we connect with passionate people from all over the world that are making an impact within the field of medicine and health. So, if you're tuning in to listen to one of our many great stories from wherever you are and wherever you're headed, please be welcome, friend, as we're about to get on with today's episode. In Italy, students have the opportunity to study medicine in English at several seats throughout the country, and this of course attracts a lot of international students to seek out these medical schools. The medical degree you obtain after 6 years of studies allows you to practice medicine in Europe and also gives you the opportunity to specialize in a certain medical field, with some requirements of course depending on which country you choose to specialize in. In this episode, we'll be speaking to Ecem, a final year medical student at the University of Turin in the north of Italy. We'll be listening to her medical journey and what living in Turin is like as an international medical student. Now let's get into the episode. And Ecem, welcome so much to Medicine and Healthcare Around the World.
Hi, Ecem. I'm so happy to be here.
Where are you speaking to us from?
I'm from Turin right now. In fact, I'm having this conversation with you inside the hospital because this is the end of a clerkship today. And originally, I'm from Turkey. But now I have been living in Turin for 7 years now.
That's right. Yeah, we can see. So this will be posted on YouTube always, also, this podcast, and we can see this kind of, we talked about it a little bit before, just for your listeners. We always have a kind of a chat with the guests. And yeah, you just finished your clerkship. We can see this huge, big green background. What kind of clerkship was it that you did?
It was an elective one. That's why it was shorter. And inside internal medicine, we furthermore have metabolic diseases, and it was metabolic diseases ward. And mostly we had diabetic patients this week because of the hospital's position as well. We usually have elder patients in general. So that's why in internal medicine, we see a lot of elder patients and conditions like diabetes.
Mm. And in regard to that, you told us that you've been living in Turin for about 7 years, but you're actually in the kind of final or last years of medical school, where in Italy we get to do, I think it's a general thing, not just in Turin and Bari, but the general medical schools is during the later years, you get to do the kind of medical clerkship or rotations. Sometimes they're called that, but it's the tironcino. Is that what it's called that you're doing
Yes,
in
like
Italy? The
all of
tironcini?
the clerkships are called tirocinio, and there are some different categories, like the ones that are obligated, the ones that are elective, and then the ones that are called abilitante in Italian. I'm not sure about the direct translation, but those kind of clerkships are the longest ones that you have to do after passing all of your exams, passing other clerkships, etc.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just rewind back the clock a little bit, because
Yeah,
now we're talking about the kind of final part and maybe that you're about to graduate. But if we go back and just find the reason behind it, because 7 years ago, I don't know if you lived in, you told us that you came from Turkey, but if you were in Turkey at the time or studied something else, but could we talk about the motivation behind who you were 7 years back and basically the motivation or reason that led you to uh, do the IMAT, the kind of entrance test that they have for international medical schools in Italy, and start
sure.
your medical career?
Sure. I know that this question is quite important and many people ask, but somehow I can never give a short answer to that. I cannot say that, oh, okay, one day I saw it on the internet and decided to take IMAT, because we are talking about 7 years before. There wasn't much on the internet either about English medical schools in Italy. But what I know about my high school years and me at 18 years old, I knew that I wanted to study abroad because during high school years, I had the chance to travel to Europe with my parents. because of their mostly job vacations and stuff. And they took me with them. And when I saw abroad, I actually really liked not only the universities, not only the buildings and the beauty, but also the lifestyle, the mindset. And on the other hand, whenever I was talking to my teachers or like some people older than me, and when I told them that I was interested in research and science and do something regarding biological sciences, they were always telling me that, okay, you might be unhappy with your career in Turkey, so you might consider going abroad. So
Right.
that's why I started to search. And the thing is,
Right.
when you started to search about abroad, like the first countries you're going to see will be obviously UK, USA, countries like that. But obviously, there is this issue of balancing what you desire and what you can do in terms of finances, resources, time, etc. So I was looking for an opportunity that won't make me pay like hundred thousands of dollars per year. And that's why I started to search in middle of the Europe. The first country that I found was like countries like Germany, France, and stuff. And there was this obviously language criteria for those universities, which are free, but in order to get into that, you have to speak the language. And one day I met a girl in my high school, like not a close person, but like we were having some chats here and there, you know. Sorry.
Is everything all right there? You're good?
Yeah. Yes. Can I continue right
Yeah.
now from here?
Of course you can continue. Please, this is such an interesting story. Please go on.
So I was talking with this girl, like I was in the science part of my high school and she was in the social part of the high school because we have this sort of division in Turkey. So I had no idea about like what she plans, what she wants to do. And she told me that she wants to study in Italy. She wants to study economics in Bocconi University. And I was like, okay, but like, is it Italian? Like, is it free? And she was like, no, it's not free, but it's in English. So I had this wrong impression about Italy. Is like, okay, if you want to study in English, you have to pay a lot of tuition fee. And one day I decided to stalk Bocconi University. Like, I'm confessing here. And when I started to do my sort of research, I realized that there are actually governmental universities that offers English medical courses or like other courses in English, but they are government universities and that are free and they have like fascinating rankings, great reviews. So I was amazed of having another opportunity in Europe.
Hmm. It's fantastic. So,
So yeah.
so you talk. Yeah, forgive me. Did I interrupt your story?
No, no, sorry, please go ask.
No. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting that. No, I was wondering. So this is, uh, travel with your parents. You had this kind of, could we say, an early curiosity for the outside world because of your parents' work. And you talked a little bit about combining, your current situation, the resources that you have, the opportunities. And you find this friend in high school that was studying, or she was about to study
She was about to
economics in
study. She
Italy.
was doing her applications.
She
We
was
were,
doing her applications, yes, for.
yes.
Mm,
Yeah, we were all seniors and she was doing her applications. And back in time, I was studying for German language to apply to Germany universities and trying to learn further more about European universities.
interesting, yeah. So, but this was economics from what your friends in her application, but
Exactly.
you choose medicine. So
Yes.
what was the reason? Like, was it a lucky pick, or were you interested in the beginning in medicine? What was the reason behind choosing medicine?
Okay, so that's a good question because I kind of didn't highlight that point. Like, I was always a nerd for biological sciences, so to say. And The thing is, like, when we are in high school, obviously we have to listen to adults, our teachers, family members, and trying to understand the outside world, because all we know is school and inside the school, so we don't get the chance to experience on our own. So obviously, when people say that, oh, you might be good at this and this, you listen and at least you try to think about it. And it's a really big decision, actually. Like, no matter where you are in the world, like, trying to decide what you're going to study is one of the biggest decisions, because like it will affect your whole life, your whole status, happiness, etc. And I thought that like I can be happy with something, like re- regarding biological sciences, but I wasn't sure so much about the rest of the career. I knew that I don't want to sit in an office all day. I knew that I don't want to have that corporate life that I see in my parents. And I knew that I sort of have this passion of like reaching out to people. Anyway, I had a small internship in a genetic laboratory, and I hated it. Like, I hated sitting in the laboratory with no human interaction at all. And I realized that, okay, I can still do some science, but I need human interaction and communication. Like, I need to speak to people during my day while I still trying to understand things. That's why the idea of medicine came up.
Right. The human component, the social
Exactly.
interaction,
Still to
plus
this
your
day, it's my
interest for.
favorite.
Mm. So, the yearning for like social interaction, but also you told us that you had an interest in uh, natural science, but biology, from what I sent, or biological sciences. So it sounds very much, if I'm not misunderstanding you, like a trial and error process for a lot of people. And I'm not one of them. I'm more in your camp, I would say. But like people that are born or very early when they are kids, it's like, I want to become a physician, I want to become a doctor. But and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what you're telling me, it was more like you tried, you tried yourself through trial and error, and found out that medicine was the ultimate pathway. Am I correct?
Yes, I would say that's true. And luckily, I didn't have too much pressure from family or from other people that was like, you're going to be a doctor. No, that wasn't the case. In fact, they didn't even like that idea at the beginning.
Really? May I
Yeah,
ask why?
no, I think nothing particular, but like in my family, we don't have any doctors. So I guess they had no idea how it's going to be. All they knew that we're going to study and work a lot. And it turns out that they are right. But the thing about life is, no matter what you do, if you want to be good at something, you're going to work hard. Like, no any other major is easy. Like, there is no easy path. And at least you can choose the one that you enjoy it.
That's right. And also to walk your own path in this way, especially I'm also from not a background of people, my parents, they were workers really, they weren't, no academic background, and going your own path and not having that kind of help, maybe we could say, you could have social
Wow.
and emotional support,
Yeah.
but not educational support. But you choose your own way in that kind of sense. I admire that, really.
Thank you.
It's
I
very
guess
admirable for
something
sure.
that we should all be um, congratulating each other on that, because it's gonna be lonelier in that sense. Like, I didn't realize it at the beginning, but when I started med school, I realized that it can matter having some network, having some people who are going to be your advisor on the way.
Absolutely, yeah. So you choose, I'm guessing in high school there, you did the IMAT, and you scored well because you got into, was Turin your first choice, the International Medical School of Turin?
Well, as a non-European, yes, Turin was my first choice, but I got into the university in my second attempt. In my first attempt, right after graduation from high school, I failed. And I failed with a very little amount of difference, yet like I had to take it and accept my mistakes and study for one more year.
It's very good resilience for sure. You have a lot of you didn't give up, but you choose. So you got in your second attempt at the University of Turin. They have an international medical school, and just for people listening to this podcast, it is relatively hard to get into this medical school. Only about 10% of the people that do the tests do get in, and it's like a one-day thing. What was it now? I think I have some post-traumatic stress syndrome from this, but it was like one and 90
We all
minutes.
have.
Was it 90 minutes? And I think, were you afraid of, because the thing that got me a little bit worried was that for those that you don't know, for those that don't know, you score, you get points, but if you score wrong or you choose the wrong answer, they give you minus points. So
That's
that
true.
is a kind of stressor. But also, I don't know about you, but I had to travel to another country to do it. So it's, already you would think that doing university entrance test in your own country is hard enough and more stressful. But you and I, we choose to do this international medical journey and go to, I don't know if you did it in Turkey, but either way, you're
I took the exams
choosing this.
here. No,
You took the exam in Turkey, yeah, but
no,
nevertheless,
I took it
still, like,
in Italy. Sorry.
oh, you took it in Italy, in Turin,
Wow.
it must have been then, I imagine.
That's true because back
All
in my
right.
time, like the exam center in Turkey, it was cancelled. I don't know for what reason, but after my year that I entered, like the next year, they opened it again.
I understand, yeah. But you got in. Congratulations to that. 7 years later, I congratulate you. But so could we talk a little bit about how the first time, like the first, we can maybe say year or the first initial period, because there's a lot to think of as you have to move abroad to start this medical journey. Medical school is already hard enough, I think, but then you choose to do it in another country, in another culture. So, what was your initial experience like when you arrived to Turin?
I can mention some of my highlights of the first year, but before that, I should tell to people who are listening to this, like if you want to do this, like you should really want it, and it's okay to not to know everything, like every detail. Maybe you are not sure like how it's going to be the exam style or in med school, or like how it's going to be in the life abroad, but you should search as much as you can, especially if you cannot travel to that place. Like after I got entered and I started to interact with younger students, and obviously pandemic had an effect on that, I realized that people are not able to travel beforehand, like before getting a student visa for Italy. Like they are not able to travel and get to know the country. Like either is for Italy or for any other country. If you can't travel, like use social media, use all you get to get as much as idea possible, because being a tourist and like having a YouTube video about a city is going to be a lot different than actually living there. So good luck with that. So the first two things are like n- wanting it so much that when bad things happen, like they're not gonna make you give up, that you will continue. And second thing is like try to absorb as information as much as possible. So these are my, I guess, two biggest advices in this episode.
Okay, very good.
And in my first year, like obviously, well, it was painful because I had to figure out the Italian bureaucracy, and I didn't get any kind of consultation, any kind of help, and like there wasn't much to benefit from, like I say. And for example, I made huge mistakes in my scholarship application and I couldn't get my scholarship in first year. I was always like running around from one office to another without knowing single word in Italian, and that was also the second mistake, because even if you are going to get education in English, like you have to know some basics in the language that you are going to interact with. And for the info, like in Italy, people can speak Italian, not English, because somehow, like sometimes people have this expectation of having perfect English wherever they go, but that's not true. Like this is another country, like this is another country that they speak in English, so you have to know some language. In my case, I didn't have time for that because I was working too hard on my ABC plans of getting into a university that I ignored Italian language, and in the first year it made me have some hardships. And but apart from the bureaucracy and those hardships of like finding accommodation, trying to start a life, I would say that the first year was fun because like there were also a lot of people in my situation, so I never felt alone. We were able to laugh in miserable situations and support each other, so um, that wasn't so bad.
Completely agree with you. It really, you know, you can really become a resilient person in that kind of sense. It really, yeah, I agree. And if you don't agree, you can tell me what you think about it. But like studying as an international student is another country. I think if you go through with it and if you have the kind of willpower and you have the motivation and the patience with it, it really changes you in a way compared to if you would have stayed in your own country. And even though you have those hardships, at least for me, with the bureaucracy or finding an accommodation in the beginning, it really changes your mind when you go
So
back to your
true.
home country. Just a quick break, and we'll head right back into the episode. Uh, Now, I was thinking of talking a little bit about the life outside of medical school and the life in Turin, and maybe we can compare that with Bari a little bit because they say Turin is the, I think, the Paris of Italy, or it's a very kind of modern city. And here I am in Bari, which is in the south, a little bit more rural, I'd say. But so, what does a day look like for you usually now in your later years? But how is it like living in Turin? First of all, I just want to make it clear that I understand that your campus is actually not situated like in Turin, but a bit outside from what I understand.
That's
Uh,
true. It's a small
yes.
town called Orbano,
Mhm.
and we have to take, like, if you don't have a car, many Italian students, they usually have a car, but internationals, they don't. As the med school of Turin, we are located in Orbassano. I'm telling this so that people who are interested check on Google Maps or something, because you're not going to have the hospitals inside the city or like the cool fancy buildings that usually they choose the image of to advertise. But like our hospital is like a good old humble hospital, a little bit outside of the city. The public transportation is just a bit problematic, but like partially, like not inside the city, but when you want to reach the hospital, like there is only one bus that you can take from Turin city and reach here. Usually, like it takes around 40-45 minutes to reach the hospital from Turin city. And apart from that, I don't see any problem with the location of the hospital or the public transportation. I think it's not worse than any other city in Italy because there is this reputation of Turin as like, oh, the hospital is outside of the city. Like, how do you guys survive this? But the
Yeah.
truth is, like, many hospitals that we have in Italy for medical education, they are located outside of the town. And somehow, like, I don't know about Bari, but I know about cities like Milan, Rome, Pavia, and like other places. And like, you are not having that hospital inside city center, which makes sense because like the hospital has to have some integrity and it has to be big enough to have that facility to have a med
Yeah.
school inside.
Mm. Interesting. Now, our Policlinico, that's our hospital, university hospital, that's in the middle of the city, really. I didn't know it was like in the outskirts, but you make a very good point about like they like to advertise it as being like in the midst of Turin, and that's where you'll be living, you know. But uh, one thing that I'd like to ask you about, because they always talk about North Italy, like being more organized than South Italy. It's always more organized. And I was wondering, is this true? I haven't been to north of Italy yet. But for instance, the thing you told me with the bus, there's just one bus to Orbanzano, the place where you
Teacher.
have your classes and maybe clerkships. Is it disorganized in general, according to you? And would you mind sharing like concrete experiences that shows a disorganization, or maybe everything works smoothly over there?
Well, actually, it's quite subjective, and I will try to break it down because, like, let's start with public transportation, and then we can come to the city life of Turin and hence Italy, because, like, when we say disorganization, it actually affects every part of living in a city. So, like, to begin with, as a Turkish who is coming from a big city, like 45 minutes of road is like nothing for me, because in our big cities, like, we usually take at least around 1 hour and a half to reach somewhere. So it was nothing for me, and I was surprised when my European friends were freaking out about 45 minutes of road trip. So it's all about perception and skills in that sense.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is how
No,
Italian
don't worry
nurses
about it.
communicate during the day. So,
Yeah, but they're social, so we have to incorporate this in the interview, of course. Very good.
oh, yes, like
No,
they
sorry,
are
please go.
greeting each other.
Yeah, of course, they're social. That's wonderful.
Regarding the disorganization, like, okay, I think generally Italy is famous for that. And I don't know to what extent we have this difference in between South and North, because I haven't lived in South, but I have friends who are living in. Yes, to be honest, like, it's a little bit more disorganization exists in that side, like because of political reasons, geographical reasons, etc. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
this is
no,
too loud.
I think it's just from the recording. I think it's not picking up too much of it. I'm sorry that that bothers you too much. We could wait if you want, or we could continue. It's up
Yes,
to you.
let's wait 1 minute because I don't hear myself.
Of course, yeah, sure, sure, absolutely.
Hello?
Yes, about this organization, please go on.
So yes, there are some differences between North and South, but I don't think that is too much of a difference. Like, once you pick a city and like start living, you will adapt to their lifestyle, to their disorganization, unless it's super major. And I don't think that it should affect one's decision about like whether it should be South or North, because as I get to know a lot of medical students from different universities, I know that like the Italian universities, the med schools, like, they're legit good no matter where they are. So wherever you choose or get to enter is going to be a good university and a good city, and the rest is a bit of luck, to be honest, because like you can go to the best city or like the highest scored university and have a very bad experience with the people and stuff there, or you can just go to an average university and have your best student life. So it's also about luck, and I intend to stay optimistic whenever I go to somewhere new or like meet with new people. Like, you can hope for the best, and the rest is like, life.
Yeah.
And regarding that city life, like, Turin is a very student friendly city. I don't know if it's comparable to Paris. Like, I kind of disagree on that comment, because when I visit Paris, like, I find it huge and like super crowded, a little bit of dangerous and chaotic. And like, obviously there is its own beauty, but I think Turin is not the Paris. Like, Turin is more like how we can say is like Montpellier, if we have to compare with a French city. It's like more student friendly and calmer city, that the life is convenient to reach the places. It's not like a big city that you get lost in, or like it's expensive or has like dangerous places to avoid. And it's not like a super small town that you get bored, because like there are thousands of students here and related facilities.
Mm. No, I think they called it the Paris of Italy because during Napoleon Bonaparte's rule, they occupied part of northern Italy, or all of it almost, and you can see some of the architecture that like reflects French architecture. I think that's the reason they called it the Paris of
Yes, yeah, yes,
Italy.
that's true. They have some
And
neoclassical architecture. Interesting.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. I think that's the reason. But either way, I
Okay.
think you mentioned something that is very important. Um, the kind of you can go to the best university, yeah, in Italy or whatever, and you can still have a very bad experience because, sure, it comes to a point where, when it comes to organization, maybe it could be things like the professors are always on time. They always post the call for exams at the right time. They don't forget anything. You don't have to hunt them down for information. Let's say you have everything, all of that in order in your perfect medical school. Even if that would be the case where no major disruptions happened, you could still, like you said, have a bad time. And I think part of the answer lies in, you touched on it, having the social interaction, the people that you are with, or living, you have to consider not just the medical school, but also what your everyday life is going to be when you go to the library, maybe interact. Do you have a friend to go with, to study with, for instance? I'm not asking as a question. I'm just saying, like, ask yourself that, do I have friends that I can be with when I don't study, when I want to relax a little bit and do something fun? Do I have friends to be with, for instance? That the social aspect is incredibly important, I'd say, for your mental health on the long run to survive medical school. And I think that gets to be forgotten a lot when it comes to people thinking of going to the perfect university. It has to be among top 100 universities in the world. That will be the best for me. Maybe you are a hardworking student and you'll get good grades, but your social life will suffer a lot, and that will mean your mental health. And maybe you could compensate that by being a very hard student, having a purpose. But I think in the end, to live well also means to, have your close people around you. So you should also consider that when choosing the university, not just the super organization of it. Of course, there has to be some, organization. I just wanted to ask regarding the organization. The worst I've gone through in Bari so far is for the first semester of the second year that we went. I'm a second year medical student, and for the first semester of the second year, we didn't have three professors assigned when we started classes. Does that ever happen in Turin?
Well, maybe not the exact same example, but we also have like lots of disorganization examples. And to be honest, like I guess my class is the one who suffered the most about it, because like the English med school of Turin started with my class. It was the first year, and obviously there were some lack of organization, lack of communication in between professors or between professors and students. But when I check in with like younger students from lower classes, like usually they are happier. But to be honest, like there were some points that they made me question about my choice, because for example, we had instances that we don't get the class materials presentations in English. Like we were not able to communicate with professors because they never check their emails. So like it should be always the student representative job. Like also like not only because of my university, but also because of the pandemic, there were like some bad instances. Like we had a lot of difficulties with coming back here and organizing the clinical experience. Like a lot of us had to wait a lot to be able to book their clerkships, because there is this booking system in my university. I don't know if it's a general thing, by the way, but you have to book your spots if you want to do a clinical rotation or tirocinio. So, and if there are people who are in like above years than you, like they have more priority in the system to book that spot. So you have to wait for them to get your spot. And that's why like after pandemic, like there were still like 6 year or 4 course of students trying to complete their internships. And I literally waited more than 2 years to start with my clinical experiences after the third year, you know.
So you have to do the tironcini. This is like compulsory. This is integrated. But from what I understand, the booking system, in your case, it just has a limited amount of students, and that's why there's too much demand and too limited spots. So people have to wait. Am I correct in understanding that?
Yes, you understand correctly because after pandemic, they even lowered the number of students per clerkship. And this is a system that is built in our Moodle website, and we have to go there when they open the system. They announce the dates. You have to click on and check the dates, the name of the ward, check the spots, and you have to grab a seat literally. And obviously, the system opens earlier for the ones who are in higher years, and then like the years lower. So if there is no spot left for you, you cannot have your clerkship. And to my knowledge, it didn't get improved a lot. It's still like this, and people are like literally grabbing seats. But my only advantage is being in my final years because I have now more priority and I can book a clerkship immediately without waiting for others.
I understand. Yeah. So there's too few spots in relation to the amount of students. We have a very similar thing here in Bari. Especially, I talked about these courses, the sicurezza del lavoro. It's like a safety work course that we have to do, and they integrated it quite recently. And there's the order of, in general, the order of spots that they have in relation to the students is too few, and we have the same situation that we will be starting going to the wards in next year, but they have given priorities. You can't go to the wards without having completed this course. They won't allow you. And now they're dealing with like the 6 years, the fifth year that are graduating. And just like, I think it's a similar situation where people are waiting to graduate or start their clinical experience because you have to complete a number of CFUs, I think for your case too, of clerkship in order to graduate. And they're waiting. Maybe they will become fiore corsi, like they have to study more than the 6 years that are integrated. But I think it's a very similar work, this organization, when we talk about it. So it's very good that it comes out here, that we talk about it for sure. Maybe they have more in Bari, North and South, but it's really good to get like a real anecdotal evidence of what it could be like, even in Turin. So thank you for sharing that. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm not sure if it's a relief or something even worse that we have the same situation.
Yeah, I don't think it's a relief at all. I think really
Yes.
need the, people want things to be on time, but I think it might be for those, one of the things for us studying in the South is we always hear how North is more organized. And it's a lot of like for people that are, as they start their medical journey here in the South, they start thinking of going to the North because they hear it's more organized. But it's really good to get like a reality check. And maybe in other aspects, it is more organized. Like, for instance, the worst thing that happens to us is we didn't have assigned professors for the beginning of the second year. They assigned them eventually, but it took some time. And, we had to prolong our schedule, day-to-day, daily schedule longer. But it's good to hear. I mean, I'm sorry to hear about it. It's not good to hear it, but it's also good, if you know what I mean, to hear the kind of reality of it, that things might be even organized in the North too, for people that are expecting to do this, having this free, no disorganized experience, even if they go to the North, I think. Yeah. Just a quick break and we'll head right back into the episode. All right, so we talked a little bit about the kind of even that in the north of Italy, a kind of disorganization might occur. We talked about the example of in order to do clerkships, you mentioned that you needed the kind of the booking system that you have has too few spots in relation to the amount of students. So this kind of postpones the need for medical students to do their clerkship. But we have a kind of similar thing going on in Bari. How about in general? We talked a little bit about it. You know, Orbanzano was a bit outside of Turin, but how has your social life, because we talked about the importance of also having a social life in Italy. How has that been for you in terms of Turin, in terms of your life as an international medical student? What has that been?
Okay, so throughout this whole experience, I think I can say that I'm satisfied with my social life here in Turin, like despite the location of the hospital, etc., despite studying medicine, because I think it's at the end of the day, like we are the ones who set the line between our med school and our lectures, duties, and what we want to do with the rest of the life. Like if you're super passionate, if like med school is your whole identity, and I'm not saying it as a bad thing, but you know, it's meant for some people and it's not meant for other people. Like if you want to do only medicine, you can do it. You can do it in Italy. Like you can have a great academic life and like those ambitions are on. But if you also want to chill a bit more socialized person, that is also possible. And this is what I like about Italy and about Italians. Like, to be honest, I'm not coming from a very strict country, but still, Italians, they taught me how to be more chill, enjoy life, enjoy little moments. And this city has like all kind of opportunities to give me that. I'm not only talking about taking your time to like sit in a cafe, have some chats with your friends, but also like if you want to have a certain hobby, like you will be able to find places. Now, obviously, like in some cities, you have more opportunities as an international student, and in some you have less. For example, I'm always jealous of like cities like Florence, Rome, and Milan because of the amount of internationals and international events going on. But in that scale, like Turin is not that bad. It could be better, but it's still not that bad. You can find your own circle, like if you're interested in a sport or some sort of artistic hobby or any kind of hobby, like you can find the right place for that. And again, like I say, like regardless the city or the med school that you got into, I think it's a skill and discipline to acquire that uh, you have to commit your time as an adult that so that you can enjoy life and have other interests in this life, because it's not going to be as easy as it was in high school. I mean, maybe somebody disagree because like for me in high school, it was easier to have a very fixed schedule. And outside of the schedule, I can do my sports, I can spend time for my hobbies. But when we start med school, like we are the ones who create that schedule, if that makes sense, because there are no teachers or parents that are going to hold you accountable for doing things or not doing things. So you have to make promises for yourself and keep those promises. If you say that I'm going to study, just go and study. And if you say that I'm going to have some fun, go and have the
Yeah.
fun.
No, I think like as you graduate from high school and you start whatever you do, if you work sabbatical year or in this case of going to medical school or studying the university, it is not just studying content and information and facts, but also learning about how to live a good life. I think you pointed it like how to live. You have to take your own responsibility. And I think university life, or in this case, the medical career, can be a very good practice for that. I would like if you would like to share that, if you're open to it, and if you're not, we could just, not go on with it. But how do you cope with finding the kind of balance with medical school and your hobby or free time? Because it is like you said, like it's very, when you go to high school, it's maybe a little bit, I don't want to say childish, but it's like you said, very fixed schedule. You have people that take responsibility for you, are very much kind of still a child, at least what concerns the mind.
Yes.
But here you are a grown up, you're supposed to take care and provide, take responsibility for yourself. Uh, are you able to do that, or have you learned, been during your 7 years, been able to develop this kind of skill? And if so, would you mind sharing what you usually do in Turin?
Yes, of course. And for the context, because maybe it can help to somebody else. And I know that this is not the usual case. It might be easier for people to build routines and schedules. It wasn't so easy for me, and I didn't know the reason until I got diagnosed with ADHD. And that's why, like, I had to recognize my own paths, that like when I can study and when I'm productive, when I have to take care of my health, or when I have to do the things that I like. So like by the time, again, like in high school, with trial and error, I built some routines. Like I know that I love exercising. I was a professional athlete in high school, so I know something about the movements and the body, and I'm keep doing that from time to time to make myself happy. But obviously, like even if it's like a rewarding thing, like the thing that you actually enjoy outside medical school, you still have to be disciplined about it. Like you have to create those gaps on your schedule. Is like, okay, I have clerkship until 4 p.m., but I'm gonna carry my gym bag with me, so that I'm gonna be going to gym after the hospital and reward myself. So you have to make these little adjustments. And obviously, like I would recommend checking in with other people, so that like they can give you ideas, they can invite you places, um, go with them, accept the invitations. But obviously there's this little balance between saying yes to
Of course,
everything
of course.
and keeping up with your own goals and schedules. But by the time everybody figures it out, so um, if you make mistakes, that's completely okay. Regarding me right now, I have, like I told you at the beginning of our conversation, like I have this chill life, chill side of this med school. It's like I'm almost having a
Oh,
pension life just before I start to work hard again in my specialty. Because right now, yeah, I have like some amount of clerkships. Like I know when I have to be in hospital, like which weeks I have to be in hospital and which weeks I don't have to be in hospital. So I always try to plan my weeks beforehand. And if I'm going to a hospital, it's going to be like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. hospital time. And then afterwards, maybe some gym or maybe some work and then studying session. And if I'm not going to hospital, I have to go to a library or a cafe, because I'm that kind of person that I have to be somewhere to be able to study. So that I study during the day and I reward myself with hanging out with my friends or doing something that I
mm,
enjoy.
yeah. Oh, it sounds like, and this is something you have built up throughout the years, from what I understand. You've become much better at it. Could I ask you, if it's not too much of a personal question, how it's been in regards to that, and also have been diagnosed with ADHD, how that has been for you, that experience?
Well, it was a long road, because until I actually take our psychiatric classes, which happened in fourth year when we were in quarantine, so they were online classes, but still, it started to answer a lot of questions. And suddenly, like the more I checked about it, the more boxes get ticked. And the things that I thought that they are like my personal traits, or like my laziness, my lack of attention, lack of effort, they suddenly became like made sense, and it became a part of the disorder. And obviously, like I mean, here, like in my university, the professors are quite supportive for people who have like learning disabilities or like conditions like ADHD. So it wasn't too hard to open up because like there were already students and like friends of mine who got diagnosed with that, and it was I was lucky so that I was able to open up with no hesitancy for my social life or for my medical life, because I hear from people from other countries that they want to hide it in their medical school or in their specialty because of some sort of prejudgmental issues. So after I got diagnosed, like I started to recognize like the traits, or like I tried to learn how can I do it better, how can I make my life easier, and it went like that.
I understand. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So, uh, I imagine you had to. They do usually say in the kind of community of psychologists, I think at least, that you are not the diagnosis, uh, but instead you can learn how to live. And from what I understand, and I think this really shows by what you're doing, studying medicine and still having a diagnosis, ADHD, but you're still able to pull through. And you, from what you're telling me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you're also cope with it, and also maybe from what I understand live well the times when you get to relax. So congratulations really for first of all, finding the courage to admit that, but also it seems like you've implemented a lot of changes in your life that have uh, made you able to go through medical school.
Thank you. But as you say, in different contexts of social life and hardships of being international, it kind of interlinks here. Like it's all about teamwork, and if you feel alone, like whether it's ADHD or being international or another situation, like know that there are people out there outside and they also think that they are struggling, they are alone. Just if you try to open up, I'm sure that you will find people like you or like people who understand you. And one of the biggest takes for me is like if somebody doesn't understand you or like accept the way you are, like they're not meant to be there. So
Yeah, no, it's very important to have like emotional, social support in these situations. Is absolutely, absolutely, I'd say in general, increases your well-being and your chances of success in terms of medical school. Absolutely. Now, I would like to talk about the you essentially and the things that you do on social media, because this was the way I found you actually on YouTube. But you're also active on Instagram. I know you have your own website, and we'll put that all in the show notes for the podcast so people can check you out. But could we talk a little bit about, because it seems like you have a lot of projects going on, and apart from medical school, and you're studying in another country, in another culture, which should be hard enough. But on top of that, you're also doing some other stuff, side projects. So could we talk a little bit about what it is you do on YouTube, Instagram, and the website that you have?
sure, let me try to explain how they are all interconnected to each other. So yes, I do study medicine and I do it in Italy, and which makes me an international student, and all of these dynamics create their own hardships and rewards. And the social media part is all connected to that. Yeah, to be clear, like I started with first blog and the Instagram part of this because of, like I told you, because of lack of knowledge, lack of clear explanations, and because of my experiences of that, like I wanted to be able to like give information other people, because like once they search on the internet they can find something. And also like there were people asking me around my circles that I have to explain over and over again. And
Well,
one day it was a very, I don't know, when I tell it out loud it doesn't sound that funny, okay? But back in time it was super funny. Like we were carrying luggages, like super big luggages with my friend in the middle of the center of Turin, like in a very beautiful, aesthetic piazza. And like
Yeah.
we looked around, like everybody was chill, like dressed nicely. And we were there with our books and luggages trying to make my friend move from one apartment to another apartment. And she turned at me, I looked at us like, okay, you know, like if we would have a video of this, like everybody would laugh at us. But now, since we cannot record it, nobody is going to believe and understand what we are going through in this journey. And I found it right. Like, and I didn't start with video format, but more like a blog format. I wanted to share those experiences in like, you know,
Yeah.
interesting, funny way and like more objective way without sugarcoating the truths or like gatekeeping stuff. And it went on like that. So that is the social media part. Like right now, I share my experiences of being an international medical student, and by the time, especially during quarantine, because of the boredom, like because of me not having something else to do, sitting in my room all day, I was looking for like some online job opportunities to, I don't know, to challenge myself to find something different. And with that, like I became a teacher. First, I started to teach privately. Then people were asking on my socials like, okay, hey, you talk about IMAT, but do you teach for IMAT, or how can I get prepared better? And all of those requests kind of challenged me to think about the IMAT exam itself. The fact that to this day, we don't have IMAT tailored resources at all. And to this day, we don't have too many options about courses or somebody that shows the way of learning. And suddenly it became my passion, like both passion and work, because once you start to dedicate your time, I start to do it voluntarily. But it's taking too much time that during my daily life, I have to make choices. Like I either have to record a lecture or go outside with my friends or with my family. So when you have to make choices with your time, obviously you expect some sort of professionalism or at least some seriousness from the other part. So it had to become a freelance kind of job.
Yeah.
And yeah, to this day, I go like on my own. Mostly, I have like other medical students that I partner up with from time to time to teach IMAT subjects or talk about different issues. And yeah, right now it's going on with IMAT courses part where I'm the tutor and the student coach so that I can actually advise students about their choices. For example, choosing a university, choosing a city, or doing the paperwork like scholarship, or actually understanding the IMAS subjects. So that is the job part, and the social media part is to, inform people.
Yeah. So in general, giving people maybe what you would have wished would have been the situation when you started your medical journey
Exactly.
in Turin. As for me, in Bari, you really, it's still pretty sparse, the information that you can find of international medical school. But I'd say in general, it is growing with a few people on YouTube and social media like you. And really,
Yeah.
it's a good thing. I imagine you get a lot of questions, but also hopefully you are helping first of all, people that are very interested in living in Turin to see the kind of everyday life of whatever you're doing and see the city or the hospital, but also the preparation for the IMAT, because there are a few things about the IMAT. It's not just about taking a test, especially for students that are outside of Europe. It's actually a European student too. Like me, you have to do a lot of paperwork involved too. So it's not just going there, taking a test, accepted, and then I can go to Italy. There's this whole preparational phase. And I think many people are very grateful for that your videos and the IMAT tutoring, that freelancing job that you're doing is probably, I am sure, helping a lot of people out there.
Thank you. Yeah, I receive great feedback, which keeps me going. Like, someday, like so randomly, I receive such good messages that my heart melts. And like, how come I can touch a person's life that I don't know even in real life? And that's the beauty of our century, and that's the beauty of having internet, building these connections, and it's quite necessary. It all comes to the idea that like that we have to do the teamwork. And when I say this, people get scared, but the truth is like taking the IMAT exam is the easiest step of this path. Like from IMAT, it's gonna be always harder, but it should
Yeah.
not scare you. Like you should try to understand.
Yeah, and like embrace the challenge. Yeah, no, it might get. I'm at being the easiest part is gonna get a lot harder like that. But I think, yeah, absolutely. I think what we're seeing, the resilience that we've talked about from you, the resilience you've built up, have you been able to combine the free hobby with the discipline of studying medicine? On top of that, doing all of the extra work with the tutoring and the social media. The general feeling I get is that you, like to help people out and are disciplined. And I think these are great markings of a future physician for sure. And with that said, we have reached the end of this interview, and I would really like to thank you, Ecem, for taking the time, sharing your story. I hope this will be helpful to a lot of prospect medical students. We will, of course, put the information about your social media and your tutorship in the show notes of this podcast. And yes, I'll leave the last words to you if there's anything you're thinking about, anything you'd like to share.
Well, thank you very much, Osam. It was great to meet you, and you're so kind with your words, and you're a great host. And I'm sure that in the future we will be talking a lot about your podcast series.
Yeah, I feel that a second interview is around the corner. Yeah. Thank you so
Great.
much, Ecem. Best of luck to you with the medical career, with the spring that has arrived in Turin, and of course, the beautiful job that you're doing on social media.
Thank you very much. Good luck to all of us.
Good luck to all of us. All right, so that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next episode of Medicine and Healthcare Around the World.